All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Look, I know exactly why you're here. You're sitting there right now feeling like, well, kind of like a rough draft of a human being. Maybe you literally just reorganized your spice rack alphabetically just to avoid opening up that one blank document. You know the one. You're watching the world pass you by, watching people who maybe aren't quite as smart or as talented as you just get miles ahead in life, while you remain perfectly still. So it begs the question, right? Why does doing absolutely nothing hurt so much? I mean, you probably tell yourself that you're just lazy. But hold on, I want to stop you right there. Actually, scratch that. Laziness is a choice, and it's a choice that feels perfectly fine. You choose to do nothing, and you enjoy it. But what you're feeling, that is not fine at all. It's an agonizing, quiet shame. You feel like a fraud, hoarding all the stability inside yourself while you're just paralyzed in place. Think about the difference between these two feelings. On one hand, you have the sharp, stinging pain of failure, which honestly actually provides data and closure. You try, you fail, you know exactly where you stand, and you move on. But then there's the heavy, dull ache of wasted potential. That's totally different. It's this persistent, heavy hum in the background of your mind, constantly whispering that you're running out of time and haven't even started. And you know what? This heavy debt was likely created way back in your childhood, the very second parents or teachers labeled you as gifted or brilliant. That innocent little compliment, yeah, it became a massive, unpayable debt that you feel you literally owe to the whole world. Okay, moving into section 1, the biology of paralysis. Let's actually stop talking about your feelings for just a second and look at the biological hardware inside your head. Society has completely conditioned you to believe that your stagnation is just laziness or a lack of discipline or some kind of deep character flaw. But if we put you in an fMRI machine, the exact moment you think about starting that big project you've been putting off, your brain wouldn't look lazy at all. No way. It would look absolutely terrified. When you face a task, your brain doesn't see a chore. It sees the terrifying possibility of losing its smart identity. And boom, that triggers a massive flood of cortisol and a literal biological freeze response. And this brings us to a really crucial biological glitch, the amygdala hijack. Basically, this is where your brain's primitive alarm system reacts to a psychological threat to your ego as if it were a physical predator out in the wild, like a tiger chasing you. So when you open that blank document, your brain screams danger. It calculates that if you try and it isn't absolutely perfect, people will know you aren't a genius. So you are procrastinating. You're literally a deer caught in the headlights of your own towering expectations. Which leads us nicely into section 2, the imposter defense mechanism. Okay, so when your nervous system is completely overwhelmed by this crushing, invisible threat, you naturally look for an escape hatch, right? Like endless doom scrolling. You do it to self-medicate the anxiety, and then you justify that delay with a really brilliant lie. Perfectionism is not a standard of excellence, it is a trauma response. I mean, you probably wear your perfectionism like a badge of honor, telling everyone, oh, I just have really high standards. But the truth is that your perfectionism is actually a heavy, suffocating shield built to ensure no one can ever criticize you. It keeps you safely locked in this illusion of greatness where you never actually have to take a real risk. So you really have to realize this hard truth here. Unused potential, it's completely fictional. It's not this magical stored energy waiting in a vault somewhere. It's just a comforting ghost story you tell yourself to feel a bit better about standing still. Your version of imposter syndrome actually operates in reverse. It attacks you before you even begin because it's absolutely terrified that giving 100% of your effort will expose a definitive limit. It's petrified of revealing that you are just an ordinary, average human being. All right, let's look at section 3, the timeline illusion. Now, this illusion completely fuels that crushing, suffocating grief you feel on birthdays or, New Year's Eve when you realize you're standing alone at a starting line that everyone else crossed hours ago. Look at this progression. At 25, you're trapped in a sunk cost fallacy, just intensely fixated on the years you feel you've already wasted. By 30, you fall into temporal discounting. Because you feel 10 years behind schedule, your ego demands this overnight, immediate transformation to catch up, which of course makes you reject the small, clumsy steps you actually need to take. But look at 35. This is the undeniable, liberating reality you just have to accept. The timeline is an arbitrary, invisible deadline, and the time is going to pass anyway. 5 years from now, you'll be 5 years older no matter what you do today. So, how do we fix this? Let's get into section 4, the 3-step rewiring protocol. Because, look, insight without action, that's just intellectual entertainment. So we need a practical, neuroscience-backed roadmap to actually fix your hardware and act our way out of this biological freeze response. And it requires 3 steps: imperfect execution, identity uncoupling, and microdosing effort.
Let's break these down. Step 1, imperfect execution. You must lower the stakes to absolute zero and intentionally create garbage. Yes, garbage. You need to prove to your nervous system that imperfection won't kill you. Right now, your amygdala literally equates imperfection with death. So by intentionally writing a terrible page of dialogue or recording an awful, unpublishable video, you're providing physical evidence to your brain that it's safe. Once you do that, the fear simply evaporates and you actually start moving.
Okay, step 2 is identity uncoupling. You have to treat your goals the exact way a carpenter treats fixing a wobbly chair. It's just a mechanical skill to sand down, not some profound mirror of your soul. You have to actively mourn the death of that gifted kid identity. Seriously, perform a surgical separation right now between your inherent self-worth and the outcome of your work.
And then we have step 3, microdosing effort. You really have to respect your neurobiology here. You can't just jump from zero motivation to executing a massive 5-year master plan. It's neurobiologically impossible. A 3-second doom scrolling hit causes your dopamine baseline to just completely crash, but a 5-minute promise? That delivers a natural dopamine hit that actually rebuilds your self-trust. You set a timer for exactly 5 minutes, and you stop when it rings. That's it. By doing this, you methodically rebuild your brain's chemical pathways so motivation can actually exist again. Bringing us to our final part, section 5, the freedom of being average.
We've covered the science, the psychology, and the strategy, right? But to truly break free from this paralysis, there's a quiet war in your head that you must resolve. It's the battle between the fantasy you and the real you. The fantasy you is perfect, effortlessly successful, and a totally demanding tyrant. But it exists solely in your imagination. The real you? Well, the real you might be tired, flawed, and a bit clumsy. But hey, you are actually breathing and alive today. The world honestly does not care about your potential. And there is breathtaking freedom in letting that tyrannical fantasy version of yourself just die. So the messy, real you can finally participate in life as a beginner.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. What is the one completely imperfect thing you are going to do today for just 5 minutes? Remember, your potential isn't some massive debt you owe the world. It's simply an option. It's time to cash it in today, because a flawed, stumbling reality will always, always be infinitely more beautiful than a perfect illusion.